A good morning and a warm welcome to this week's edition of The Dialogue. Welcome to the big show. My name is Simapolo, and it is time to look at those big stories which made our week. A panel will take us through those stories, and on the list we can look at the excitement at the summit of the BRICS in South Africa, where world leaders converged again to remodel the global politics and economics. But also we can also in this week point out that the story of the death of the Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin really made headlines. But back home in Uganda, new questions also emerged around the controversial deal to supply digital number plates in this country, and of course we'll also look at the plan by the opposition National Unity Platform, who announced that starting next week they will be going on to or embarking on a nationwide tour, I think gearing up for the 2026. Big stories out there. The panel is already set, and I am privileged to welcome back the residents. Dr. Gerard Wanzara, and he is a public policy and development researcher. Also, Richard Baguma is back on the show. Richard, speak to our viewers and share the highlight of your week.
As usual, Apollo and our viewers, the Almighty is great. He's the Almighty, the all-powerful, but for me, the one full of grace, that we go and come back. However much we sin, however we are not undeserving. So thanks to that one, first and foremost. Greetings to our viewers. Thank you very much for being loyal and following us, and to the management, of course. I am happy to see this little boy here called Bate. Thank you for inviting me. Very stubborn boy. Dr. Werike, good morning. I like the branding, and I hope that the television is going to benefit from your brand.
Richard, you must be happy about the passing of the narcotics and
psychotropic
substances control bill, though there are still voices and of dissent with to be specific, cat farmers threatening to petition the president that he must not sign this bill.
You know, you told me to talk about the highlight, and I dodged. Because what is in my heart is a low light, first of all. My grandmother, the late Mrs. Kariote, Bogota passed. There is supposed to be a service now, actually. So I was torn between coming and going for the old woman's service, but she has rested. When you count the number of years she has lived on earth and what she has achieved. Now, the Psychotropic Substances Act, for me, is a win, especially because we had put in so much effort. It was passed and was struck down by court over a technicality, something about, I think, numbers.
2016.
Yeah, numbers in Parliament. But the parliamentarians were very strong, and I thank them very much. They took a stand, and they said we must contribute towards saving our generations, these generations coming after us, against this terrible erosion of health, of minds, of development by these drugs. Now, the people who were pushing it also had their win. Because in my view, the biggest noise, really, the people who were making noise were about the profit they make out of these disastrous drugs. So they sneaked in the fact that you can get license to grow and then not consume here. Rubbish, of course, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, the law is in place.
All right, Richard Baguma is a communication expert, and we will come back. Dr. Gerard Wanzara, public policy development researcher, and speak to our viewers.
Good morning, our viewers. Good morning to fellow panelists and my host. Sincere apologies for last week. You know, we can plan many things, but usually we are not in control. It is God who does. so I was not able to be here, but I'm happy I'm here this morning and looking forward to the engagement. Yeah, this green, it's a branding. Richard said Twefeko one time here. So we are trying to create, you know, a way of self-sustainability.
You are now joining some other party.
No.
In trouble.
No. This is my small investment club. It's something we created in Chirinya, where I live, that we can save something small as we grow together, because we are not becoming young anymore. So with the time, we have to look after ourselves. So basically, this is branding for my group.
Thank you. Welcome back. And, Baker Baterule is a senior journalist working with Uganda Radio Network. He also must be happy that Parliament, the President, assented onto the Islamic banking. It is the Financial Institutions Amendment Act of 2023, which paves way for Islamic banking products, financial products in Uganda.
Good morning, Apple and the people of Uganda and the world, wherever you're watching. I have friends of mine who are watching this morning. Hi. I want to say that bill, you know, the people who are most opposed to the bill didn't even understand what it was about. I remember the Joint Christian Council writing to the president telling him, please don't accept this bill because they are going to bring Sharia law in Uganda. They were ill-advised because I think, and interestingly, it had people who are, because that organization has people who are doctors, people who have PhD. Then they had the late Archbishop of Kampala, Cyprian Tistoranga. He has a PhD for heaven's sake, and in law, by the way. But he didn't even bother. I don't know whether he read the thing before they wrote that communique to tell the president to accept it. But we are happy that it is, because you see, when in principle, Islam doesn't believe in exploitation. Yeah. And the church, and we on
church media.
We in the media that is owned by church. The church in itself, and what there's what we call the Protestant ethics. The church, which is largely Protestant and Catholic, all of them, because they emerged from one, is technically, by all purposes and intent, capitalistic. So therefore, where there is church, there is capitalism. They move together. And capitalism in its composition and makeup is exploitative. Therefore, when the church says that don't allow this, it is saying, please, we want capitalism to go on as we know it. And capitalism means there is no free lunch with capitalism. For it, they will exploit you as much as they can. And therefore, when the church leads, it confirms what we already know, because I tell you that part of the work I do at the universities is around the economics and stuff. So the church and capitalism, they are one and the same. So for the church to oppose a system that would allow equity ownership, because you see, credit in Islam, for example, or giving a loan in Islam, it is based on equity, whereby you are not exploitative and I am not exploiting you. My aim is to allow you grow. But the banking sector, which is technically capitalistic, for it is theirs is on the basis of how much they can get from you. So I was a little bit disturbed when the church then,
but luckily it was passed.
I am, but notwithstanding, we cannot forget where we have come from. Even when the president...
Batel may follow the church, but there were many interests in that bill. If I can point out money lenders who do Kamyukunte and you know what I'm saying, when we talk about commercial banks who think that possibly this system which favors interest-free loans may actually affect their business. I think there are many.
No, but like I've told you that capitalism, where you have
many competing interests.
No, like I've told you that capitalism, where you have commercial banks and money lenders, is technically Christian. Therefore, if their church, the leaders of faith come out, they are really speaking for their capitalists whom they are carrying at the back. So what you are saying is no different from what I'm saying. You are just using different words.
All right, thank you so much.
I actually don't know what is in the law. I only know that the doctrine of Christianity is not pro-exploitation.
Yeah.
I don't know about the practices that Bate might have encountered, but I know that the doctrine is not pro-exploitation. But I don't want us to be to go.
I invite you, Richard, to look out for that particular law and get.
No, I'm actually going to go and try to borrow.
Yes,
I don't want to just read the law.
Interest-free loans, I think it is.
And by the way, that money is not.
No, I don't think there is anything like free. I don't think anyone gives you anything free. That is a hoax in my view.
Maybe one thing I want to add that this law actually is not for Muslims. It cuts across. When you go to banks that have that system, it doesn't matter the religion you belong to, because no one wants to be cheated. I think so. No one wants to be cheated.
So me, I want to go and practice and get the real experience.
When they think, because it is one thing for the president to assent, it is for another for it to begin to
work.
So when it starts to work, please try out. You will find out. You'll come back and thank me later.
All right.
To rescue our business.
Still scanning through the big stories of the week, Dr. Were Wanzala, one comment on the death of Yevgeny Prigozhin. One comment and we move on.
I'm not shocked because if you establish a system which almost wants to compete with the existing system which you have been serving, and you enter a risk like of June 23rd, the march on Moscow, and then you undermine a person who is praised by so many leaders, especially in the south, like Putin, and then you think after that you'll be comfortable and alive. We know that the Russian establishment, usually that's its method of eliminating opponents by poisoning, by what? Imprisonment. So basically, I am not shocked, but I only sympathize with the countries in Africa that think that they can peg their security on Wagner Group.
I saw people in Mali demonstrating with Russian flags.
Yes, I said it here that you cannot peg the security of your country on a private security group whose intention is to penetrate and then have access to natural resources and things like that. This gold is booming in Mali, and this destination is where? So it's like you are running away from France and then jumping into from a frying pan to fire. I think Africa needs to pursue integration in all aspects. That's the only way we can survive. But this business of small states running to private security firms and thinking that they will help them to be secure and they develop, it is a waste of time.
It is a waste of time, Dr. Gerard Wanzala says, but let's go straight to what is not dealing with private firms. Talk about the BRICS, and Dr. Gerard Wanzala can take your first shot. The BRICS summit in South Africa concluded this week, and there was a new declaration that was signed by the member countries, but the highlight I think is also the new entrants in the group, including Ethiopia, Iran, including several other. Okay, I will bring out up the list. What do you make
The
of
Africans
that?
are Ethiopia and Egypt, I think.
Yeah, and Egypt even. There are 6 of them. Even Saudi Arabia also has been enrolled as a member. What do you make briefly about this excitement? Because even our own president, attended through delegation. The vice president was in South Africa, and there is a comment President Museveni made here, and I will read it before you step in. He says, BRICS effort is a gust of fresh air after 600 years of slave trade, colonialism, genocides, imperialism, neocolonialism, aggressions, etc. A group has come up to illuminate a new way for the human race, a new way that insists on justice, equality of people, and respecting independence of people and countries. Uganda therefore supports the efforts of the BRICS countries, and at the right time, we want to join. President Museveni said. Start from there.
First of all, I will start with the whole purpose of BRICS and what's happening. For me, as a citizen of Africa who would like to have alternatives, I am in support of groups that come up to provide alternatives, just as the BRICS is doing. I think it is very good that the BRICS came up with the Development Bank. And of course, if you look at the numbers and the expansion, they're impressive. That if they work together, they can provide markets for each other's products. They can also take advantage of the strength in those economies to put money together and support development programs elsewhere. But the challenge which I'm seeing is that there is an assumption, especially from the African ruling class, to think that overnight BRICS is going to become an alternative to either the World Bank or to the IMF and things like that. These things take some time. If you look at the current world order, it came into play at the end of World War II. This is 1945. It was progressive in nature until the collapse of for instance, the Cold War, the reunification of Germany, and so forth. So a lot of things have happened, and it takes a lot of investment. But there is an excitement that has been planted in our political class, not only in Uganda, but around Africa, that, oh, this can go and then this. If you have been using your loans badly, even if you borrow from the new development bank of BRICS, still it will not do anything. And then the other is that there are countries like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, that are new, yes, but these countries have their own capital. Like I know, I read papers when the new development bank of the BRICS started approaching Saudi Arabia, approaching United Arab Emirates to look for investment into their bank. Because you know, their capital was about 50 billion US dollars. The World Bank in 1 year, gives, like in the last 10 years, the BRICS Bank has given only 33 billion in loans. But the World Bank gives, like, in 1 year, okay, in 1 year, almost all that money.
Do you
okay?
doubt the potential of these member states, especially after United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia also have joined the group?
Yes, Saudi Arabia adds an economy of about $1.6 trillion, which is quite big. And then if you leave the UAE, it's a bit below, about $680 billion. Argentina is coming with a lot of debts, with an inflation of over 100%, and they have consistently had macroeconomic problems as a country. Ethiopia has problems with the conflict, but it brings a population, you know, a market, and also, of course, they have tensions, and they have tensions also with the West. So they are looking for an alternative. But what I want to tell the people is that, yes, it is a welcome move.
Yeah.
But let's not think we are going to switch suddenly from here to there. Because if you add the other players, probably you may hate the West, but the other players, Australia, well, if combined, still the economies are much bigger.
All right, but Beka, take your shot. What do you think about this new formation and the excitement, especially in African countries, about the BRICS?
First of all, I want to first make one comment about something Baguma started with, the bill on narcotics that was passed. Unlike Baguma, I don't believe that everything government must legislate against. I really am like Republicans. I don't like them, but I like their principles, although they don't support them. I like as little government involvement in my life as possible. I don't want government everywhere. Government this, government that, government this, government that. I want because I want, God gave us understanding to know we can take a decision to decide, I know what is I want, I know what is good for me and what is not good for me. It shouldn't be some corrupt politician seated somewhere to determine for you. You cannot take Mairungi. Well, he determines us, who gives them the right to tell what is good for me and what is not good for me. So yesterday I was in Butambala for burial, and I had never seen Mairungi before. I didn't know how it looked like. I see it on the street, but I didn't know what it looks like. So, but some politician somewhere, without even consulting the people who are growing Mairungi to hear their view on the issue, we normally say there is nothing for me without me. So, and even the MPs who represent the people in these areas where they grow issues like Mairungi, I had them complain. They were never given an opportunity to put their views. You know, I had them complain.
Mairungi growing was accepted. Why are you still fighting?
No,
it was allowed.
No. Listen,
you are still fighting for your people to grow Mairungi.
No,
that was the past.
But you see, growing, if I cannot sell it, if I cannot eat it, what value is that?
The growers asked to grow.
No,
they didn't ask to eat.
No, what I'm saying, because imagine.
They said, let's grow.
No.
We have a market.
No.
Okay, that was past. No problem.
Richard, the problem I have is, for example, more than half of the Mairungi, or even 80% of the Mairungi, it was eaten here. So when you say you can't eat it here, so even if you leave the growing, you've given with one hand and taken away with the other.
The discussion now is limited because Parliament passed.
No, but no, we still have an opportunity. The president has not yet assented. President, people who are going to say, the president and your people are, who are going to advise you, I advise you, please don't assent to this thing until the views of these people who are affected are heard and included in the thing.
And it is also dishonest to say that they were represented.
Okay, but
they came and spoke. By the way, they have an association which also came and spoke.
But give us your view.
Because before
he has to fight for his people.
He has to fight for his people. You might find he has a garden of my room.
No, because you see, the BRICS to the people of Butambala, the people of Wakiso where I'm coming from, the issue of the BRICS might be of less importance to them than the Mairungi. So that's why I had to first
but I think the issue of Mairungi has an alternative. I think even the Mairungi growers have been saying, what do you plan for us to diversify?
No, there is nothing they will plan for them. They have failed everybody. You see, in this country.
Meaning that if there was a way of
no, it is not there. It is not there. No, let's not go in those things because it is not there. We know we've been here for 30 years.
So what do you think
and we know this government has no plan for them.
What do you think about the BRICS formation?
Okay.
But
okay. Now, by the way, for me, I relate it to the suspension of credit for Uganda by the World Bank.
Yeah.
I think for me, anything that challenges Western domination is welcome for me. And it is under that arrangement that actually I am a big supporter and fan of Vladimir Putin.
Wow.
Yes, because you see, the world, we are here seated. One of the issues we've had, and you know why we are here, we've had the Americans through their banks. Because this bank, the World Bank, is technically an American bank. They are telling us now, because you have passed the anti-homosexuality bill, we can't give you credit anymore. But I've never had Russia, even with the problems, how their guns have been misused in Uganda, how nothing. I've never had Russia say Uganda you should do things this way, and that is important because one of the problems we have in Uganda, you asked the earlier question, what you make of the Wagner, the killing of Prigozhin in Russia, and I want to say one thing. Yesterday, a friend of mine sent me a reading, and between 1980 and 2020, the West had stolen from Africa 26 trillion.
The West?
Yes. And the West, I mean Western Europe and America. Maybe Canada. 26 trillion from Africa and other countries of the South. 26. The American economy is 26 trillion. So the economy of Africa in those years, in the last 30 years, has been stolen from developing countries. And they don't want anything that is going to interrupt the flow of the stealing.
Yes.
You know why the West is so mad? Because we hear, and I'm very sure the media houses you follow, that are talking about Prigozhin are the media houses, the BBCs of this world, that the VOAs of this world, the CNNs of this world, who are characterizing him in a certain way because he's interrupting the eating of the West. And you see,
the hemorrhage.
Yes, you might find, say, BBC or CNN, that it is an independent media that is doing independent journalism. Far from it, all of them Western media are all their activities, all their stories are towards pushing the agenda of the countries where they belong. So they will characterize Prigozhin, they will characterize Russia depending on the interests of their country. They will call Russia, the Russian president, a dictator. They will call him so many things, but they will not call the emir of Qatar or the emir of Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian prince. They will not call him a dictator. They will not call him a tyrant. You get? But they will characterize Putin as such. They work with countries that don't hold elections at all. They don't say anything about them, and their relationship is normal.
Those are the pictures.
Yes.
The cross of the summit.
When you look at all of those guys, all of them are elected. All of them. All of those guys you see are elected. We don't have Putin there. This guy in the middle, all of them actually are elected. Even Xi Jinping. Until very recently, after 10 years, the Chinese president would go.
The other one is Sergei.
The other one is Lavrov of
the other
Russia.
one is Narendra Modi.
Yes.
And that is
Ramaphosa.
The
Yes.
other one is Xi Jinping.
Yes.
And the other one on the extreme end, I am not so sure about, but possibly that could be from
Brazil.
Brazil.
The other one is Lula da Silva.
from Brazil.
Now, all of them, you will find that many of the guys they are characterizing, they will characterize the president of China as a tyrant. They will characterize Putin
Western
as
media.
Yes, Western media, because that is the thinking of their leaders. But you will find them in very close relationship with governments that don't even have elections at all. They have no fuss of election in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in UAE, but they are very good friends, and they will not characterize the leaders of those places as tyrants.
So what do
they
you
will
call
characterize?
that?
So they will characterize the leader of Iran as a dictator, as so many bad things, but they will not with the darlings of Museveni. And you ask yourself, do you want to tell me that how is Museveni different from Raisi of Iran? You know, actually it could be worse. But Museveni is their friend because they are working with them. They are working with him properly. So for me, anybody who challenges the West, anybody who challenges the hegemon of the West is, for me, I have no problem. And that is under the arrangement that I support Putin, because he is standing up against the oppression of the West.
The addition of these 6 new countries, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and what else?
Argentina.
Don't you
Iran.
think, and UAE, United Arab Emirates, don't you think it's a big boost to this new formation?
It is, of course, without a doubt. The doctor here was telling you of the economy of Saudi Arabia. He was telling you about UAE, even Iran. They are formidable forces. Now, when you have Iran and Saudi Arabia, you have the Middle East, because Middle East is some will say Persia is not Middle East, but take it the way you want. But if you have Saudi Arabia on one hand, it means those who the Gulf, you have the Gulf, because
Yes.
most of the Gulf
Yes.
support Saudi Arabia. If you have Iran on the other hand, you have all the others who support Iran.
So is the petrodollar ready to challenge the US dollar?
No, it is. I think it is long overdue.
Oh.
You can't imagine how much we are exploited by having the dollar as the means of the world, the international means of exchange. You don't know how much they steal from us because of their dollar. You don't know how much, because anything that comes to challenge the dollar is welcome, because competition And I really just, some of these concepts come from the West, but the West has no idea about them when it comes to its implementation. The West will talk about competition as a good thing, but when someone comes to challenge them, it is a bad thing.
Is the West ready to relinquish these African states which they have been, as you said, exploiting?
No, of course there will be a fight. There will be fight, and unfortunately, until we have, you know, one of the reasons why coups are very popular now is because the people who are staging the coups have told us now they are ready to stand up against the exploitation, you know, to oppose the exploitation. The West wants these leaders of ours. You're Museveni. I was reading Museveni's this week. I was reading Museveni's take on Fano in relation to Mozambique, and I read what is Africa's problem this week. It is a collection of writings of the Museveni of the 1980s. He had his heart in the right place, but now the Museveni you have now is a stooge of the West. Whatever they tell him, he doesn't ask. He's like a soldier. He is, by the way.
Really?
When there is a soldier,
he is on record. He has been challenging the Western powers.
Challenging how?
Publicly,
how was he challenged?
And publicly and actually practically, because
how was he challenging them?
Assented onto the anti-homosexuality law, which actually is contrary to their values.
Let me tell you, there is no values in the West. The West has no values. Those values, because I've told you those countries that we've talked about with whom they are dealing with, all of them have anti-homosexuality bills and acts. Why are they working with them? They have no values. Their values is one thing: exploitation. For as long as you have not threatened that big value of theirs of exploitation, they are with you. So, because if they were really people who had values like you say, they wouldn't be working with Saudi Arabia. But China and Saudi Arabia have the most of the you know, what are they called? Treasury bills, bonds. Most of the American dollars, most of the money that comes from the petrol of the Saudi Arabia goes into the American economy. The same thing like the Chinese money. But why do they work with them when all of these two countries don't have, have acts that prohibit homosexuality? So it is really just their only master is one, their money. Right. So for me, I want to end with this. I think the earlier that these countries woke up to realize how they are being exploited every day. And by the way, you've said, let me say this, the last thing, and it comes from our parliament. Last week or 2 weeks, parliament passed a bill increasing the money that the microfinance deposit-taking institutions must have from 500 million, is it to 5 billion? And they increased, one time they increased that of the bank from, is it 25 billion to 100 billion. Now, how many Ugandans can afford 100 billion? And that money is not for you. You pick up that money and you take to Bank of Uganda.
It's 150 billion now.
How many banks in Uganda, how many individuals in Uganda can afford to get 150 billion, yes, and take to Bank of Uganda? How many microfinance institutions can afford 500 billion to go and take to Bank of Uganda? You know what that means? It means that you and me are going to be kicked out of the financial sector to allow the multinationals to come and invest here. And what that means, every year, even in COVID, these banks which are owned by foreigners, they picked 900 billion and removed from your economy. And that is the man you are telling me that he's standing up against the West. Everything he does is for the West because he wants the exploitation of you and me to continue. And there is no more exploitation like getting the financial situation and put it in the hands of the West.
Luckily, in his latest statement, he supports the BRICS and he's actually committing Uganda to join the BRICS when that right time comes.
But before you join the BRICS, why don't we do the basics? Why do you get your economy and put it in the hands of the West and put it in the hands of the multinationals? Okay. You are not serving the interest of us, but them. And never be deceived by what Museveni says, because he says one thing and he does the exact opposite of what he's saying.
Richard, there is this whole excitement, and luckily your neighbor supports the BRICS. I don't know if you're also excited that they actually the formation is getting bigger and stronger.
When you become powerful, and in order to maintain power, there is so much you can wish others to have. you have to take first. And so, where does the power of the people who have it come from? It is because they take away from the others. Now, taking power, whatever power, resources, is usually forceful. Yeah, it is, and it is by the level of threat. I usually tell people that I grew up as a church boy because my father was working for the church. And I realized that there was a constant threat. That if you don't follow the message, you are going to go and burn in eternal fire. I don't know what they promise you if you don't follow. But for us, we are promised that you are going to burn eternally. So you start imagining the pain of the fire. you start, so you start following the line. So the punishments you are promised are so severe and inhuman that you start pursuing what is called the correct line, according to whoever is preaching to you. This is so that's power. And people call it soft power. I don't know. It's a power based on a threat. And a very, very big threat. It's the same as this one. While I am happy and I am pro any moves to try and challenge monopoly. Because I think the West really has monopolized the
global economics.
Not the exploitation. They have monopolized the exploitation, and they have done that because they have instruments of coercion. They have instruments of manipulation. So they have deployed these, and you see, human beings, we are such that we are insatiable. You would think that the level of exploitation and life they lead, they would say, okay, now this one we can go. No. They are seeking to even enslave us and make us even. So any move, be it the BRICS or whoever, that attempts to challenge that depth and persistence and consistency of exploitation, I welcome it very much. This BRICS summit is not the first, not even the 10th. BRICS summits have been happening. What brought this one to the fore, in my view, is the Ukrainian war.
Wow.
Yeah, it is because of the war in Ukraine.
Momentum.
Yes, because once the war in Ukraine broke up, which was inevitable, I think if you see how much bullying and how much how much, provocation that Russia has withstood in the face of the West expanding NATO to its borders, provoking, this was bound to happen. Now, because of that, they put more pressure, including the threat of the ICC on President Putin. And so what brought it was, will he come to South Africa? Or will he not? That's why the South African BRICS summit has gained global attention. Otherwise, it's another BRICS summit which has been happening. And I think the BRICS also have taken advantage to announce a big group of those ones who are joining. And so hopefully this is going to bring momentum. But we have to be careful. We have the non-aligned movement. What power has it exerted? We have the G77. What has it exerted on global power? The global power configuration, and both economics and military, has remained largely similar. Because you see, the same group of BRICS leaders are comfortable at the UN. They are members of the permanent of the Security Council.
But there's this content now that is visible in I mean, and the political divide that is visible in global politics, especially like you said after the Russian-Ukrainian war. I think won't that give it momentum to take off and possibly be a stronger force to challenge the Western bloc?
You see, the challenge has been growing. The challenge has been growing. Why would there be interest in Brazil? Brazil has been one force in Latin America. And you know the Americans will not allow Latin America to breathe. But it has been one force that has been showing, even with its economic challenges, showing some political disagreements sometimes with the level and depth of hegemony and exploitation of of the United States, and it's in their backyard. Why is China of interest? Because it is growing as a global power.
Economy.
Absolutely.
In the whole
It
world.
is still far away from the US, but it's still. Now, for me, I would even be suspicious looking at the Arab.
The Gulf states.
Yes, they are frauds of the US. I think the US will be comfortable that now it has its tentacles in BRICS with these guys there.
Really?
So for me, you see, this is why I am happy that BRICS is showing its face. It only has come on the in my view with global attention because of the Putin ICC and Ukrainian war. If this had not happened, it would be another BRICS. I'm only one hopes that there would probably be some momentum, that it would grow some momentum. For example, you talked about the bank, that there is a bank. You know, we have an African Development Bank, but who gives it money? Where does the money come from?
But do we lack money? I mean, looking at the BRICS for me.
Thank you. That is where I would agree with the Bate.
Lack money, really. You have United Arab Emirates, you have Saudi Arabia, you
Yeah.
have China. You have
Yeah, but who are those ones who are funding the
Africa.
African Development Bank? It's not us. We are getting money from the West. You look at the World Bank, and this is what I was, go and ask the Vatican how much money it has in the World Bank. How come that the exploitation of the billions of Catholics by the World Bank is not being challenged?
So, Richard, you're saying
By the
the BRICS is a good thing,
Yeah.
but we must move cautiously.
We must be careful.
Absolutely.
We must not be excited that we are going to have a transformation. But we must welcome the BRICS, even if it's for, what did the late Wapakabro call this? Even if it is for value, sentimental and propaganda value. Let's have it.
Thank you so much, viewers, and this is The Dialogue. My name is Simapolo. Richard Baguma Tinkasimile is a communication expert. Becca Baterule is a senior journalist working with Uganda Radio Network, but also Dr. Gerard Wanzara is a public policy and development researcher looking at the big stories of the week. We'll be quickly going to a short break, but just in 1-2 minutes, as we go to a break, Gerard, the resentment in West Africa and now the BRICS formation, can you connect those two? Because I think even the West African countries, Mali, there are 3 of them, Niger, and they formed a pact.
Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali.
Yeah, they formed the Security Pact. They have been longing for the ejection of the French military and those foreign forces. Actually, I think that is why they welcomed the Wagner group. and actually Prugzin was in West Africa.
Actually, for me, instead of calling it a security pact, I will call it a security pact because they share something in common. Mali has the Tuareg rebels who are controlling northwest and the west. They coexist with Islamists. Jihad is also in the northeast. And then almost half of the country, that's where the government is. And already the state of Mali, for instance, is not stable. The French left, the UN guys have been expelled. And now, I don't think whether Niger or Burkina Faso have the capacity to guarantee the security of Mali. Okay? So, I really don't know.
I'm asking, is it time for African states to realign and forge new partnerships that possibly can?
No, one of the biggest problems of Africa is the hypocrisy of the African leaders. When you go to the UN, there is a lot of to the AU, African Union, a lot of hypocrisy, and then the institution is run by technocrats who are basically salary earners. But real concrete decisions about Africa are not addressed. You come to the East African community, it's the same hypocrisy. You go to ECOWAS, look at Tinubu, the one who wants Bola Tinubu to lead Nigeria to attack Niger. Nigeria has 90 million voters. He was voted by 8 million, and the voter turn-up was less than 22 million. Where were the rest of the Nigerians? You are an illegitimate leader in your own country. So how are you going to restore order, be respected in the continent? African leaders need to go to the drawing board. I saw President Kagame when he was the chairman of AU. He said, let's reform.
There is hope in the new crop of leaders. I don't know if that excitement is also...
There is no hope. They are also looking for alliances to stay for a short time, like Mali.
We have been openly challenging the West. You should never again, take our minerals and natural resources. I think this young man in Mali,
you are talking about okay, protecting natural resources, but you are bringing Wagner to be paid by the same natural resources to protect you in power.
All right, thank you so much, the panel, and thank you so much, our viewers. We'll be going for a short break. This is the dialogue, but more big stories coming up. We want to look at the story behind the clash of the two generals, General Kaindo Tafire and General Jim Muhwezi, clashing over, disagreeing over a deal by the Russian company to install tracking devices in number plates, and it looked really, it raises new questions around this deal, whether it is feasible, whether it is really right, and again we'll also be looking at the new plan by the opposition National Unity Platform to go on to nationwide tour, hopefully mobilizing their support ahead of 2026. Don't go away. We'll come back with those big stories after this short break. Welcome from the break. This is the dialogue. My name is Sima Apollo, Richard Bagumati Kasimire, Becca Baterule, and Gerard Wereho Wanzara, taking you through the big stories in the week. And we can now invite your comments and contributions on topics that are being run in the studio. Send your comments on 0701-609906. Make your observation and make your contribution. Like Akampumza Abel Keru here said, good morning, Apollo. I'm grateful to see Mr. Baguma and Dr. Wanzala back on the panel today, but most importantly, to hear Becca, but at least today, thanking Mr. Museveni for signing the bill on Islamic banking. Not because he is a Muslim, but because of the benefits that come with the Islamic banking to the development of the economy. That's a good comment right there. Thank you so much, I'm Kumuza Abel, and you can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, make your comment.
I don't thank our president.
The viewers, that's the viewers' observation.
But well, we have other topics to look at. We can move on and look at new questions now that are emerging around the deal to supply digital number plates in this country. The deal was signed, I think the contract was signed in 2019?
2021.
2021, July 2021, and actually the project was scheduled to be launched July 1st this year. But until now, reports that are coming in from Parliament and elsewhere are saying there's nothing to show. Even there's a group of traders from Kampala who petitioned Parliament saying that they even made a fact-finding mission. They didn't find this company, Global, it is called Joint Stock Company Global Security. Even to Russia, they didn't find it anywhere. And remember, Bate and the panelists, even when this project was brought on board, first talked about in 2019, even there were questions around this company that it's non-existent, that it's but I wonder even up to now the same questions are emerging. General Kaindo Tafire, justifying that he as the Minister of Internal Affairs, he's not even aware of the contract, don't know who signed on the contract, and even police as an entity is charged with supervising,
which is supposed to have the depository for the record.
You can take your first shot.
This country is very interesting. I normally repeat it. The Archbishop of Namirembe, the Bishop of Namirembe, his what is the title? Right Reverend. Wilberforce one time said in Uganda tebura mu bitali bya bulijjo. I don't know how to translate that in English, but this country can amuse. I was in the room when Jim Muhwezi was introducing that idea, and we asked him so many questions he didn't have answers for. I remember having a hot exchange between him and me when I was asking him pertinent question about this idea. I am the only good thing to this is that it is owned by the Russians I love. That's the only good thing about it, but that's where it ends. And a problem is that the person who is also trading, who is having this company on his back, is not particularly a clean person you would base on to say that whatever he sells is what do they call? The person who sells, there is a saying we say, Jim Muhwezi. He's not particularly, he's a
leper.
Because you are not selling something that is has problems and you give it to Jim to sell. The Baganda say so you are selling something that is hard to sell, and the person you give it to.
But he's the man in charge of security.
No, but you see, you can give it to somebody else to sell. You can choose to put it elsewhere and in another ministry too. But for you to give it to Jim Muhwezi, who the record when you put the name Jim Muhwezi, the first stories, what are the stories you have? Sensual stealing of land. I remember writing a story of him trying to steal a poor man's land here in Machidi.
But people reform.
No, but how do you reform? Old habits die hard. So, but that is the person you are selling, you are giving. If you want to sell something that is hard to sell, you give to a nice person to sell, who is going to convince you. You know why in restaurants
actually, part of the stakeholders, there is the Ministry of Works. In that whole thing, there is police, internal affairs.
How about actually you give it to for Katuma Wamala to be the face of this, but for you to give it to Jim, who is on record for stealing government money?
But let's talk about the company.
These are important. These are very important because the person who has a tainted background, you and is the one selling, who is the one you have given the sales person. He's tainted as a person. He is known to sell air. You get so a person who is known to sell air. You don't expect that this time he's selling something that is not air. Number one. Number two. His own minister, his counterpart, because Minister of Security and Minister of Internal Affairs, they work very closely because one owns the police, the other one owns ISO and ESO. You get, but when you put on scale, the police is far outweighs the ESO and ISO, for which Jim Muhwezi is the superintendent. So, but you have the Minister of Finance, I mean the Minister of Internal Affairs saying, we don't know this. I heard him yesterday say, we don't know this. URA is saying this thing is not important. These are all people, by the way. All the people I have had in that committee are not people who are from the outside. They are people from the system itself. You have had the Commissioner General of URA saying, this thing we don't need. You get? You have the Minister of Internal Affairs, this thing we don't need. I had Katika Hindotafire say, Jim has said this thing was discussed in cabinet. Kaino Tafile yesterday said, I have never heard about it in cabinet. All these two guys sit in cabinet. And he said, we don't know. This thing has never been brought to cabinet. So how do you? And number two, the other thing is, people who own cars are supposed to pay 700 something.
35.
Do you know that money? How much that is? That is about $200. Actually, maybe even over $200. You expect them to pay to get those number plates.
New applicants.
Yes, new applicants. Even these ones, all of us who own cars, even if they are car, I mean, even if we already have number plates, we will eventually have them. They will give us a grace period to transit.
Oh yeah.
Now, that is not small money to ask from Ugandans, and you should, the system, I mean, the entire project should be clean. Yeah, but the entire project is tainted in controversy. The entire thing is painted in corruption.
Which is actually telling for the Commissioner General of URA coming out to to also complain about the huge
the huge amount.
cost
Yes.
amount.
And URA, their only job is to collect money. But even him, the Commissioner General, is saying, no, that
This
money
is
is absolute. It's too much for us. You cannot ask for that money. So now I ask myself, if the people concerned are opposing, why should any other ordinary Ugandan, me who is going to pay that money, why should I accept? And more so, you ask yourself, this government, why do they want us? Why do they want to monitor us? They brought cameras here, and the president touted them as the game changer. You know, he said I was in parliament when he came to speak about after the death of, I think, of Kawesa, to give us the security measures. I also had him after the death of Abiriga. And all of those, that has not deterred crime from going on. And if anything, by the way, I have a friend of mine whose car was stolen. She paid police and people in the camera system she spent up to 7 million.
Really?
Yes.
To recover.
Because they would
What
tell
was it recovered?
we have seen it on the camera in Mukono, but to recover to get the footage, you have to grease the oils, the wheels of someone who is managing the camera. Then that one of Mukono said, no, we have seen it in Natete. You have to pay one in Natete to give you the footage to that effect. She ended up paying 7 million and she didn't recover the car, by the way. So we would ask, if you have seen it in Mukono, why don't you intercept it and then? So at the end of the day, we have ended up actually oiling corruption, more corruption than for the purposes for which these equipments were obtained. And for me, I really don't. It's a good thing that they are fighting.
Oh.
Let me hope they fight until the project dies, because I have lowered my expectation. This government, there is nothing that they have ever brought and said it is for the good of the people. No, everything they bring, there is no people in sight. It is them in sight.
Oh.
That's how
personal
it's
interest being
absolutely. And the only thing I am worried about when Kahindo Tafile is also opposing this thing, because you see, the Americans are opposing the Russians. You might actually find out it is not. We are not fighting. There is not a fight between Jim Muhweza and Kahindo Tafile. It is between the West and Russia. And the Russians have used Jim Muhweza, and the Americans and the West are using Kahindo Tafile. So sometimes these fights are actually far larger than what you can expect.
All right, thank you so much, Bate and Dr. Jared Wanzara. I'm sure you followed up from where it started.
Yeah.
Now that new information is emerging, is it a raw deal?
I think for the benefit of the viewers, let me contextualize this matter. This matter first came up in 2019 following the assassinations, shootings of political leaders around, and therefore that's when I first heard the president saying they were in touch with the Russian company that would help in terms of tracking motorcycles and cars.
So the president
to strengthen
was aware from the beginning.
From the beginning, and he mentioned it. So COVID came in, and in 2021, the matter came up again. My only surprise was that, of course, we have this title, Minister for Security, coordinating ISA and ESO, but I would have expected the Minister of Internal Affairs to be the lead agency in this matter. But of course, I think the history we have here is that there's little trust in the police, even by the establishment itself, and therefore the Ministry for Security is under President's office, and therefore it would be easier for the head of state to monitor the project. Now, the signing of the contract itself was through single sourcing.
Yeah.
As you know that the PPDA Act, if a public entity is procuring a service, they have to advertise and any companies compete. But because it was a matter of security, I did not have any problem with single sourcing, because things that are sensitive, such as security, states sometimes can single source, depending on the strategic and security interests of the country. Therefore, this company came into the picture, Joint Stock Global Security Services. Now, when it came into the picture, for me, I saw this matter after the due diligence trip that took some people abroad in Russia and Dubai, where the company claimed to have done some work. The findings were clear. You were in Parliament, Apollo. We saw the physical infrastructure committee discussing, and they had a lot of questions about the company. But what surprised me is that when the report was brought on the floor of the House, the order paper was amended on that day. Yeah. It was not on the agenda. It was amended when Parliament was sitting, already discussing other matters. The agenda changed, the report was brought, and then the report was adopted. Sorry, it was, they adopted,
which
approving.
Which
creates suspicion because, okay, changing the order paper amendments, it can happen by the speaker. Yes. But what shocks me is that the infrastructure committee is talking Z and the plenary is taking A. They did the totally opposite decision. So I asked myself, are we having people there who reason, who are representing this country and discuss? I was very disappointed. And the other day, when I saw them again trying to investigate, I was like, this is bullshit. I'm sorry for using that, but sometimes it's very annoying because you are made to look like you're a fool, yet you are executing a public duty. Now, where the challenge comes from too, there is different entities that have done investigations about this company. The company has not done anything. A system that people were showed in Russia was totally different. Here we were procuring what they called intelligence transport monitoring system. Now what they were showed there was totally different, and it was not done by this company. That's what was contained in the report. 2, the sickness, which I call real sickness. We had GM Tampeko and another company manufacturing number plates. Nobody should deceive you that they are unique number plates. They get these same number plates, then they put in a chip. A chip which can track where the car is, and relay information to the server. Then they are able to monitor the car. So there were arguments that's what Honorable Tafira actually was saying, that why do we are talking about boo-boo, buy Uganda, build Uganda, but we are we are telling a local manufacturer to close. And then we are going for liars who are saying, oh, now, since we are under sanctions, we are going to Poland. Technically, Poland and Russia are at war. Yeah. So there is no way Poland can allow a Russian company to manufacture that one. Even a kid would know. Even a kid would know. There's no way Poland can allow that company to manufacture in in Poland, and bring number plates here and do business for Russia. It's not possible. So
what do you make of this whole battle?
So at the end of the day, I think there is a clique of money-hungry people who know that cars will always be imported, and therefore this particular company had been given 10 years. So 10 years, and then they incorporated here. The Russian guy was given 99%. Then a colleague was given 1%. So the Ugandan government has nothing in the company.
Yet,
okay?
Joint.
Absolutely, the name was to confuse us, to fool us. Because when you name the company joint stock, then people will think that Ugandan government also has shares. But it was zero. At the end of the day, we're just picking a very lucrative sector and we give it to a foreigner.
That is it, Richard.
Before Richard takes, I want to remind you of Henrique Penetti. Her company that was given to do coffee and also to construct a hospital was in furniture. So it won't be the first time that we give people who are totally different things to do particular things.
The company was almost once declared bankrupt because of $60,000. And here you are signing an agreement pretending that they are going to invest $257 million in Uganda. From where?
I get really confused because Kenya, I think even last year, rolled out digital number plates.
With the Nairobi Metropolitan and so forth. Yes.
Number plate was costing 3,000. Kenya, did it, why would it take us all this?
This is not Kenya.
Eh?
This is Uganda.
We have capitalists.
I said in another platform that this was typical. This was typical. The approach was the same. The timings were the same. Everything was typical. And you see, that's why I become very careful to talk about a typical
View.
a typical deal, a typical of a certain group if they are the ones behind the deal. The workings are the same, and that's why I'm careful, because they are extremely powerful but also extremely vicious. They have talked about the looting, the impunity with which they loot. Really, the impunity is sad. Yeah, it is really sad. So it's the same. And if you look at all the deals, they go the same way. They have power over every institution of government. So when Wereke was describing the thing not being on the order paper, we know all the campaigns we do, how hard it's be on the order paper. It was not on the order paper. Midway the session, it appeared on and was bought into without question. When you see that the institutions that would ordinarily handle this, you are talking about works and internal affairs, that they get trashed, and you have generals there, no less than generals in charge.
In both.
In both. They get trashed with these. Because usually they also know, they see the team behind. It is because General Tafire has much more room for rigor when it comes to lamentations than General Katumba. So he has that. And this is what he's doing now. Now, Bate raised an issue, an important issue. But he said Russia and America. For me, I think it's that this sharing, the sharing amongst the cabal, has not been strategic.
Sharing the kickback?
Well,
spoils.
Well, sharing whatever it is they are gaining from this. Because first, I think, and I said this at another forum, I said, in my view, this is a phantom company. This is what we have seen. The one who bought UCB, the one who took Meme, the one who, they are usually phantom front companies. Incorporated in some secure, Bahrain or Ukraine or somewhere. And they come and they take very, very strategic resources. One of the areas we have seen where attempts have been repetitively to take regular money from vehicles, because this is regular money. Let's assume we have 1 million cars in Uganda, and you are taking $200 from each. It means it's 200
for a period of 10 years.
Million shillings. So how much is that at the end of the So this for me, and where you know that really the cabal is extremely powerful. You hear General Tafire saying, I write to the president, the letter doesn't reach these guys. No. You hear the Commissioner General of URA says, we are pleading. That's what he was saying for the committee. And say, at least give us some. We got instructions, integrate. But integration of IT systems, really this is simple science. Everybody knows they need a little bit information to do the back end. And he said, we have never received. And so, for me, it would be naive to come here and talk about this as if it's an ordinary.
So we should count this deal among other bogus deals.
It's a phantom. It's a looting, a wanton impunity looting venture like the others that we have had in the past. And I can tell you, Parliament is going to put brakes on investigation.
No.
Parliament is going to put brakes,
Leadership of
and it's going to go.
And directed that the probe should stop.
Yeah, they are going to put it until this man, either it will disappear. The best thing it will be to disappear. If it doesn't, the report will come out inconclusive and sent for further investigation.
All right, thank you so much, Richard, and thank you so much, our viewers. This is The Dialogue. I'll be again looking at your messages, Joey in Chirinya, and I know that you are watching. Shout outs to you. Alex in Kisugu, thanks for the program, Team Dialogue. I do agree with you, Doctor, for your contributions on digital number plates. What is Bubu in this case? Only that they are just exploiting GM Tampeko and Analog. The other one is Analog. Who are already licensed for issuing number plates. It could be someone's project, and that is a message from Alex in Kisugu. Thank you so much for watching and sending in your observations. I am Akampumuza Berkero. I entirely agree with the members on the panel. He talks about the move hegemony and monopoly tendencies is welcome, but we need to be careful as these members in the BRICS are also good allies of America. Thank you so much, viewers. Quickly, I'll switch gears and look at another topic, but you can keep those messages coming in. Tell us what you think about this deal to supply digital number plates. You've heard from the panel. Those are the opinions, but you can also tell us.
Before we end that, Richard said, like many others, he made me remember the opaque, the Vinci, the president later confessed and said, it was me about the coffee. He says, it's me. Don't attack that woman, it was me. So that one, he was very honest about it, and maybe because of the value addition thing, he just seems to know how to do it. But then I was remembering the opaque properties.
Yeah.
The Naguru. It turns out the Fanero Ministries, I don't know what, even herbalists got that land in Nakawa, which they said they were going to develop into a satellite city. And it is Ugandans who went and registered in the Virgin Islands and pretend. So we waited for the tycoons, nothing.
But you also have this one.
Kingdom here.
You have also
Shimon.
SGR. What is it? The one which was going to go and they do inspections on our cars. Yes.
No, they wound
Yes.
the project wound
People
up.
was
But
stolen.
money must come from our vehicles on an annual basis to a certain group.
Yes.
It must. They may fail this time, or it may, but they
every
must.
time they keep on trying you. They tried you with this SGS, then it somehow the thing botched. Now they are coming up with another.
No, they are saying the latest is that with this vehicle testing, government is going to buy out the plants. They had already installed plants, I think, in Kawanda.
Here,
in
is it Nakasa?
And they are
That's for
going
inspection.
to buy it for 110 billion.
I can promise you, Apollo,
Those testing centers.
Apollo, the money is going to be revised upwards. 110 billion cannot be enough.
So that is
It
where
must
we
be
are.
revised upwards.
And anyone who is suspicious of everything happening in this, I one time I asked myself, these people who are running our government, see, are they really
Baguma said
or they?
that is typical of some other group.
And that's what I'm also wondering, typical, because you ask yourself, these people, is there somewhere they will go after? Because these things, the way they are, every time they are scheming, how can I steal from these Ugandans? So anything they bring, there is no public interest, it is their interest first. So everything they bring first read personal interest in them. And because you see,
I don't know what activity is happening at Ruhua.
Apollo.
You see, unfortunately,
you will have a
the
headache.
media are not allowed.
You will have a heart attack.
But
When you
you see, Apollo, we have a high increase in non-communicable diseases. Why do you want to increase the viewers in non-communicable diseases, but then really?
Apple, maybe let me say it in Honorable Tafire's voice. We have never seen them. I don't know them. I don't know how they look like. I don't know what they are doing.
this country.
It's really embarrassing. And
No, for lack of a better word, you can use that because it is far beyond embarrassing.
yeah, it's embarrassing. Let's shift gears and quickly look at the road to 2026, gentlemen, in the studios. We know the confusion that is happening in the Opposition Forum for Democratic Change (FDC). This week they announced that they will have a national leadership conference on October 8th. And that actually is one to elect the leaders, and I don't know how they will work it out with all this confusion. Anyway, if we will not see fist fights elsewhere, but the National Platform announced that next week, actually on Monday, they will be setting off, starting with Imbalala, on mobilization tours, nationwide mobilization tours. I will ask Dr. Jared Wanzala, what do you think, because you have been an observant and on issues of governance. What anyway, I can say they have to do it. They have to do it because they must do it, because 2026, like I said, is just around the corner. But what can we expect?
It's true. 2026 is right at the corner, and the roadmap, the electoral roadmap, was launched by Electoral Commission. I remember us discussing it here 2 weeks back. But if you look at the arguments that have been there before in the electoral processes, the same issues have not been resolved. One of them has been the issue of electoral reforms. I've seen them in the boardrooms. I participated in one, but I'm not seeing anything. I anticipate that, as usual, some amendments will come towards nomination, and they will be useless, actually, that are not able to change or to transform the electoral process. So I see that. Then secondly, we know there are contestation. We have seen a person who has been campaigning here for 2 years. He may not be on the ballot in 2026, but there is a sense of ownership. So I'm going to see the behavior of security forces is going to be the same. Controlling, stopping, switching off radio stations, this is going to happen. But also the other is that the approach that we take in Uganda's politics is also, I think, not sustainable, because I saw the announcement, for instance, of the NUP, that they're going mobilization drive, and by mobilization drive, expect that the president of NUP and his friend are going to be passing around, opening
offices in all the branches across the country, mobilizing the the party leadership in those areas, and addressing members and supporters. That's what they indicated.
Yes, I will keenly observe and see exactly what they do, because I have not been seeing much activity since the 2021 elections. I don't know whether some had gone into abeyance, but the confusion is going to continue. And one thing I anticipate, the 2026 election is going to be very highly contested, and it will be worse than the COVID election. Because for me, what I look at, I've looked at the statistics. The average age of a Ugandan is 16 years. An average Ugandan is 16 years old. And they are led by, the average leadership of Uganda is 60. So the difference between 60 and 16 is very big. Certainly we are likely to see a generational confrontation where the young people are going to be very wild, and then the other group will be fighting for status quo to remain. And also, you know that the rate of deprivation in this country is very high. People are just up and down. The economics are not doing well. So we are going to see more hostility. And I believe, as usual, the state is going to prepare to procure, you will see the next budget, a lot of tear gas canisters, trucks, to prepare how to handle the young population.
I was looking out for that section 5 and 10 of the POMA Act which were nullified. Will that really make a difference in, as in security handling these public meetings?
Well, Apple, we have been here. Do we respect the law? No, we don't. For instance, even the Police Act, some sections were scrapped off. Like for me to have someone to have a political gathering doesn't have to ask the Inspector General of Police like they used to do. But this time people will just tell you the order is from above, don't hold this meeting here. It is just this year when we saw women MPs being beaten on Women's Day. So if you are able to beat a woman MP who is holding a function of women on a Women's Day, so do you expect any change?
The question goes to Baker Bate. What do you expect?
Let me tell you, I was telling a friend that actually I think we should do away with elections. Because I looked at the what is it called, that thing of the electoral commission, what did it, the roadmap
plan.
We are going to use 1.3 trillion the election, and that is the 1 point?
1.38.
1.38. That is almost 1.4 trillion. Now, and that is the electoral commission. You will have budget for ISO, you will have budget for police and other ministries. So when you combine, the entire election might take, and then you add the NRM money, it will go and raid the treasury and remove another trillion, and then these other political parties. When you add, we will spend like 3 trillion in an election. This government, in this budget, they put 1 trillion to put people out of poverty. That 1 trillion, it has got money for the parish chiefs, the people who are managing the money. So ultimately what will end up in the actual money that will end up with people is about 700 or even 500 billion. So that is what the president, every time you hear him on the radio, PDM. But the actual money that is available for the actual is about 500 billion. Museveni's State House and Office of the President, between them they almost have 1 trillion. Between those two offices. But he has put 500 billion to remove us from poverty. When I did the mathematics and then I actually used 1 trillion. Each of us will have 20,000 to take us out of poverty. Now,
from the PDM project.
And that is if we are, the entire 1 trillion was to be spent on actual people. But I've told you 500 is going in the administration of that money, and it is only about 500 that will go in actual work of poverty, and half of that will be stolen by NRM people.
NRM people?
Yes, no, because this thing targets NRM people mostly. People, you go and find those ones who are Dizim Yoga or these organizations. They are entirely the NRM people benefiting from it. But let me say this. Now, if you believe that 1 trillion can take out of poverty, what can 3 trillion do? When you get 1 trillion if you take 3 trillion and you invest them in the Ministry of Health, you will have a hospital at the level of Chirudu in every region of Uganda.
So
you get?
Because we have reached that level where Bate says we should even scrap.
I was telling an MP friend of mine who will agree on the terms for which you can remain in Parliament. Either as a Ugandans, we can agree to get out of Parliament, all of you, and we give him 7 until he drops dead. Or we can agree on an arrangement under which MPs can stay in Parliament forever. Because ultimately, why do we spend 3 trillion? Because there is no time that Museveni organizes an election and he has in his mind, even in the wildest of his imagination, that he will be out of power because of this election. You are going in an election where you have his son. We have talked about the law that you referenced. He's still serving military office, bad to participate in partisan politics. He's with NRM people moving all over the place, campaigning.
Even the Speaker of Parliament.
Yes, NRM people. Even the Speaker of Parliament is NRM. You find MPs lining like school children. Even when I was at school, I used not to line. But you find MPs. There is no value. You find people who honorable lining up like school children, waiting in the queue to shake the hand of the emperor, the child of the emperor. You see, now you ask yourself, I have disagreed with the president for a long time. But I agree with one thing that our president has said in the last 10 years. That looks like is correct. All the people around his son are opportunists. So you find the people opportunists lining up. Imagine an MP, honorable, you travel from O2K, you have from Chisoro, you travel how many kilometers up to Bukedia. You line to shake a hand.
And you are number 300 in the
Yeah, you are number 300 and you are
sunset.
not bothered. Me, when I go even for food, imagine there is immediate satisfaction from what I'm going to get the food. When the line is too long, I don't line. Either I go where it starts or I don't eat. But you find MPs riding, the queue is going kilometers.
Are you talking about how politics?
No, I am telling you ultimately, because I know Muhoozi will not contest when his father is there. That is for a fact. If he dares, he will get 0.00 something percent. Because there is no Muhoozi without Museveni.
That is your...
No, it is the truth. Mbabas was here and you were touting him as the singer, how much he got 100,000 votes. So there is no Muhoozi when there is no Museveni. And let me tell you one for a fact. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni Tibuhabra, the son of Kaguta, will be on the ballot paper in 2026. You can take it to the bank. And they will not be, if Muhoozi dares, he will get 0.000. All these ones you are lining, whom you are seeing lining up like school children, they are lining up because they don't know where the emperor's views are.
Like matter to
Yes, they are like Kanukafuna. You know, you go in the market and you find people who do Chinese, who do these things of Kanukafuna. That is what they are on. They don't know where the thing is going to go. But the moment Museveni declares that actually he wants to be on the ballot in 2026, even Andrew Mwenda, Muhoozi's chief campaigner, will go to Muhoozi. I mean, we'll go to Museveni. So, under the arrangement, and therefore, if you have Museveni on the ballot, it is clear he's going to be the president in 2026. So why do we waste time?
Now the question is, if you know all this is wastage of time, why is NUP and others ready?
No, I ask them.
Going to the electorate?
I also ask them, why are you participating in this thing? Because Museveni wants, if there was a way he would not organize elections, he would not. The only reason he organizes elections, he wants to continue to pretend that he's a Democrat, because you cannot go to the UN, I mean to World Bank, we were talking about, to go and commit Ugandans when you are not elected. So these Americans know how to steal from us that you must be elected. So they use him because that is the only way he can continue.
Open party offices, why would they go to mobilize to, if there isn't?
Because there isn't. All of us know. If Museveni is on the ballot, the pen of Biabakama, Simon, our good judge of the Court of Appeal, cannot write any other name. It was manufactured, I don't know where they manufactured it from. The pen that writes results. It was manufactured to write only one name. If he dares write one name, it will fall from his hands. So, and if you know all these facts, for example, so why would you contest?
What should this peasant expect on Monday?
Nothing.
When Chagulanyi goes to Mbalala?
He will expect, unless otherwise, I expect the police to refuse him, like they have always done. Because the police, it doesn't matter even if the law is as clear. Ours, the law is only used. In the Quran, we have what we call Surat Ankabut. Ankabut is the spider. The spider manufactures a house and it goes on it and it shakes it. It's like as concrete as this thing. But when a rat or a lizard comes, it just goes through. So the law in Uganda is like that. It is like a cobweb. The lizard can go through properly, but it catches small things. The flies can't. So the flies are the Chagulanyis, they will not go through. So if I don't know what is the thinking of the police now, but if in their calculations it doesn't suit them properly, of course it will not happen. It doesn't matter whether the law is on Chagulanyi's side or it is not. But they will allow Muhoozi, they will escort him because for them they are above the law because everything they are doing is above the law. The law doesn't concern them. So in these arrangements we shouldn't talk about the law. Doctor here talked about that we should amend the electoral laws. It doesn't matter. Even if I was telling somebody, even if the head of the electoral commission is actually His Excellency, no, even if the head of the electoral commission is Honorable Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu, even if he's the head of electoral commission, that electoral commission will declare Yoweri Museveni as the president. It doesn't matter who is the head of that. That's why sometimes I'm not very hard on people who are heading it like the Yorokamas. Because sometimes I was at Nambole. You look at him, Byabakama declaring results, he's also puzzled. He looks at the figures, he doesn't know, but nonetheless he declares them. Because he's declared what he's given. The system, the structure, it doesn't matter who is at the end. The structure is such that Yoweri Museveni will always be the president if he is on the ballot. So I think we should, what NUP and the people on the opposition should help us to have a national dialogue as a country. National dialogue, not the dialogue of the doctor here. The dialogue of where, how we should move forward, because elections in themselves, I reached that conclusion a long time ago, can never return anybody who is not the people running the system. So, and I think for me, the issue of moving around, talking to the people, it shouldn't be to prepare for 2026, but it should be to discuss how can we move forward past these elections, because them and in themselves can never return anybody other than Yoweri Museveni and his NLM.
Richard Baguma, tell us what you think.
I think first, when you are Robert Chagulanyi and your group, you give the world, particularly the one where you get resources, the impression that you are on the ground and you can shake things. That there is a cobweb and you are a lizard, if I may use Bate's words. And then the 2021, 22, 23, 24, you have to go and test your lizardhood. Yeah, otherwise, why do we keep feeding you our lizard when you are not moving to test the lizardness?
Test the cobweb.
You must go and, the cobweb is known, but you are claiming that for you are a lizard. Go and show us your lizardness. So you eventually reach a point where you can't keep collecting and being fettered and without showing anything. So I think it's at that point where you also have pressure from those who support you, who facilitate you, and you need more resources.
So Chagulanyi knows it well, what may befall him and his group.
I think,
but
I think Dr. Chiza Besigye knows it better, actually. So he's the consultant on
but
this.
He is under pressure to do
There's no choice. I think the second thing is the interesting choice of where to launch this from.
Mbarara.
Absolutely. You see, you put the punching hand. You put the punching hand in a bit of a fix. How much mayhem can you do in Mbarara? Yeah, it's a bit hard. Yeah, so I think the NUP has an interesting calculation because definitely if I'm the regional police, if I'm the regional police commander, the BPC, I would be rubbing my hands with glee, and I'm the one, the diesel, the resource, because certainly the resources are going to flow. Yeah, I may have some condemnation, but certainly the resources are going to flow when you have Chagulanyi coming. So operational funds, everybody is going to come down. I think it's not too bad for them, but it is only bad for the ones who may receive some stones, the ones who will be showing, because you see when you throw tear gas, you also get some. Those ones may get, but I think operational funds, they are going to be happy on the ground, and the people who purchase tear gas and what, because it has been a bit redundant now. I don't know if it expires, so I think the police stores, they are starting to get jittery, the quartermaster. So they are a bit happy now that their products are going to be. Yeah, and the ones who control fuel and vehicles, they are all going to be repaired. Fuel is going to be given classified. So I think that is one. So what should I expect for the Mbarara person? The Mbarara person is where I come from. the business people I talked to, 1, 2, 3, they are saying, oh, we are going to close, we are not going to open, probably our cars will not come to town. That is some of the things you expect. And if you take it and take it to the West Port or whatever, you will affect these places like that. So yeah, that is what to expect. Water cannon, roadblocks, tear gas, a few more canes on some people, closing of businesses. I mean, I think this has been happening.
From Chagulanyi's X, you know, we have no problem.
Oh yes, Twitter.
Yeah. X handle. So it's most importantly, it's a continuation. We all agree that we must hit the ground and awaken the people of Uganda to take on their revolutionary assignment.
That's why I tell you that you are in a corner. When you are Chagulanyi, you are in a corner. You cannot keep claiming to be who you are and have no action. So it's a time for you know, the time had to come. You cannot go flying all over first class or whatever and telling the world that you are here and you are the one who is going to remove the dictator, and you are in your comfort. You have to get out of that comfort zone. So there are consequences to all of us. And there is no doubt in my mind that my president has changed in thinking about how to handle whoever comes to present himself or herself as an alternative. I don't think, even if it's Muhoozi Kainerugaba, I don't think there is any change. I don't think there is any change in orientation or in action. I think it will be punchy. I think it will be hard. I think it will be painful, if whatever it needs, and it will be iron hand. Now, there is something though that as a leader who is interested in keeping power for decades, if you lived for centuries, if God gave you life, it doesn't matter for centuries, either you or through your bloodline, there is one thing that always happens, Apollo. You can only create a facade of democratic dispensation. You have to create a facade because people have to be kept in the facade, in the smoke screen. But behind, the dictatorial or hard punch cannot be adjusted. It can only increase. So this is what I see.
He said, thank you so much for the program, but he is very correct. I can't waste my time to go for voting. I already know the results. And you did not give us your name. Please, when you send in a message, give us your name. And this is Mukisa Inikusugu says, let the people of Mbalala prepare for tear gas and sticks.
And fresh tear gas. Oh, expired.
Gentlemen, we have to walk out of this place, and I will give you 1 minute each for the closing remarks. Dr. Gerald.
I don't expect much to change in our political processes from what has happened 2021, 2006, 2011, 2016, even the coming one. So I think, like he said, it is high time probably we came into a conversation as a country, and of course I've not seen yet the Honorable Norbert Mao's actions that he promised, but I think when he keeps blowing up about people sitting together and discussing a way forward for this country, for me it wouldn't be any problem, even if it means pardoning certain people so that Uganda lives in harmony.
Good. But your closing remark?
Like I said, I was reading about Museveni's earlier writings, and without a doubt, Museveni was, I don't know about his status now, but he was really an intelligent man. He properly understood, because I interact a lot with university students. At undergraduate, when you see what Museveni wrote in 68, scrutinizing, dissecting philosophers like Fanon, and even people who are doing postgraduate. Sometimes you ask them what was Fanon saying and they would not. But under algorithm 7 would properly diagnose, dissect what Fanon is, and then use Fanon's writings to relate to our problems. When you look at his writings before he became president and those other years after, immediately after, you really look at someone who is intelligent and who has understood the problem. But he has done exactly the same things he was saying and was diagnosed that needed a solution. And I really think that that's why I think now Idi Amin and Obote, for every year Museveni has kept as president, he has washed them clean.
That is your opinion. Richard Baguma, your parting shot?
I think what we should be paying attention to as individuals and as a collective is the economics of this country. I think it's going to be tougher, the way we behave, but also now the global dynamics, the Ukraine and the World Bank. I think it's going to be tougher for us. So I think it's an area we need to pay attention to, especially as a collective. This group of the Werikes are the groups we have, 14500. I think we need to emphasize this because, like say, it is a mwefeho time. It's a time for us in Kovazambogo. It's a time for us to see how we can, from what we can, the way we can rescue ourselves. Because certainly, Apple, it is going to be harder for many of us.
All right, not good news from Richard Baguma. Times may be harder, and tough times call for tough solutions and tough skin. My name is Timapolo. Thank you so much for being part of the dialogue this morning. We'll catch up next Saturday. Thank you so much, our viewers who sent in your comments and observations. Let's catch up then. Good afternoon and a good week ahead.
All views and opinions expressed in this program do not reflect or state those of Salt Media and its management. These are views of the guests.